Morning or good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today. I think it's a time to get started. I'm sure a few more people are going to join shortly. Let's get started here. So today I'm going to talk about the admin essentials in MassMailer. I'm sure you're familiar with some of the settings, but I think it's important to kind of deep dive into some of the nitty-gritty details that you typically see in the settings and how is it related to the emails when you're actually sending out. So there could be, more webinar webinars I'm planning to do on the same topic, but touch basing on various other settings that you would typically see in MassMailer. So I'm not sure how many are going to be there, but let's just start. So this is part one. All right. So today I plan to go through the MassMailer setup screen and the settings that you typically see, such as the account settings. You have login usage and alerts, the tracking settings. There are various options that you see there: email notification settings, email login settings, event tracking settings, subscription tracking settings, and then email settings, that is object settings, sender settings, CC, BCC, duplicate email settings, and IP tools, and the tools finally, that is schedule purge or manual purge. So I think this should be good enough for today. Again, I'm going to go through the setup and also see how it is correlated to the emails that you're actually going to send out here. Let's switch the screen now. Go to Salesforce. Okay, so since you're familiar with Salesforce, MassMailer, you see this MassMailer setup, and under which there are a few tabs that you see and the sub tabs on each one of them. So starting with the account settings, again, this is supposed to be accessed only by the system admin. Currently, it is we give access to all users, but other users are not supposed to do any changes other than the system admin. We plan to have that restriction in the upcoming release, one of these upcoming releases, in which we're gonna restrict the setup page only to certain profiles, starting with the system admin. Of course, if you have any custom profile that you created other than the system admin, we should be able to support that as well. You just have to kind of mention what is that profile name. Typically, it's mentioned in the custom settings, and then we should be able to support those custom profiles as well. So assume that the MassMailer setup screen typically would be allowed to you make changes only by the system admin. But eventually, we also plan to have the user configuration as well, not just the system configuration. In which the users may also be able to have their own, configuration settings. Not everything, but like a partial settings that are relevant to only to the users. So it's kind of a future plan, though. I just want to kind of give you a heads up because it's very essential when you're an admin to understand how this setups really work. Okay, so starting with account settings, as you can see, this is the login page where you would typically do not change this once you set up MassMailer. We provision the account behind the scenes. It's a sender account that we use. Once you set up the user, don't change it. I do not recommend, but if you ever needed to change the email address, password, that's okay. So assuming that like you already set it up by using the create user, you wouldn't want to just change it, randomly. But whenever you really needed to change something, you can always change it. If you needed to change maybe the email address, you can always click on that pencil icon, change the email address, and then save it. Similarly, you could change the password. Just click on this, old password, new password, save that. And same thing, you can change the username to something else just by clicking on the pencil icon, and then you can reset the API key. So the individual functions are available, but again, be very cautious and don't let you so if you're an admin, I would strongly recommend that if you have more than one user in your company, hide this setup tab from the rest of the users. You can do that being an admin. You can always create like you can restrict the tabs that any user can see from the profile options. I mean, there are several options that you have available through which you can actually hide any tab from rest of the users. So I strongly recommend to hide this MassMailer setup tab from rest of the users other than the admin users. So that's what you could do on the account settings page. And then whenever, if you ever needed to change the entire, I mean, which does not happen typically, you know, sometimes maybe you have the sandbox plan that you got from us, right? Because you are using one SendGrid account in the production environment, but in the sandbox, you basically wanted a sandbox plan, meaning we can provision another SendGrid account behind the scenes. So whenever you cut over your production to sandbox, you'll get all the MassMailer things, just copies over. But you still have to change the account settings here whenever you want to use in sandbox, just because you want to do a full-blown testing end-to-end, including the email alerts, then you definitely need to have the sandbox plan from MassMailer. So you can purchase that. That's not that expensive. It's $29.99 per month. We'll provision 10,000 emails. So in that scenario, you can go to your sandbox environment, edit the user, get a new new username and password and everything from us, which will like send it to you via email, which is what you can enter and then save it. So that is when I think you can just use that edit user thing. So otherwise, pretty much once you're set up with MassMailer, you really don't have to make any changes here unless you make changes to the password, whatnot, which we spoke about. Okay, so that's very simple in this page. Then next up here, the usage. This is more as usage information. So far, we are just giving the email usage. So upcoming release, I think we're going to have the email verification usage information as well, meaning how many credits you have left in the email verification, how many you have total, kind of a thing. So that's something that we're planning to add to the section, so that way you get the usage information on this particular page. And it'll keep growing because, as you know, we are going to add SMS feature, WhatsApp feature. So as and when we have those features available, the usage page also will have more information. Right now, we're just showing only the email usage here. Okay, as you can see here, it shows the remaining. What is the total amount that you have been allocated? That's your plan. And what is the remaining amount? And if you ever gone over from your existing total. So I know we keep saying that, hey, if you purchase 100,000, that's what you can send. That's true. But the system will stop at a random number. There's no predictable number. It won't just stop you at 100,000. It may just go a little bit beyond, because if you already executed a campaign, it'll go a little bit beyond. When it touches the threshold, when system triggers an email or some sort of a notification saying that, hey, you've gone over the limit, and then it stops. So it's hard to predict what number it could be. You may go over the limit sometimes, even though you have 200,000. So that is the number that you see the overage anytime. But like eventually the system stops, and you will get a notification that you already gone beyond the limit, and you can purchase credits from us. Sometime in the future, we are gonna add a button in which you can actually just purchase the additional emails, so that you don't have to really send an email to us. That would be an option in the future releases. So here you can see how many overage and how many used. And then when was it last time reset, and what is the next reset? So our emails are always going to be they reset on 1st of the month. Even if you start plans say today, that is June 18th. Let's say you started with 200,000 for for a plan, right? For the email plan. For rest of the month, meaning like till end of June, you have the 200,000 emails, and then from July 1st onwards, again it's going to reset back to 200,000 if you sent maybe 100,000 emails in the rest of the 2 weeks. Then everything will be reset on July 1st. Again, it'll start 200,000. So this is common across the board to every customer. That's how the platform works. So every time yeah, you see that, hey, it's resetting on first of the month, that's how it is. Even if you started middle of the month, the emails will be reset on first of every month. So that's the kind of a norm. That's what you see here. And then the next screen here, you see the alerts. So there are, if you're on the latest release, not all of you are on the latest release. I know we're gonna announce the latest release to the existing customers as well. We've been kind of testing it with new customers. You will see some of these changes here, such as previously we had only one alert, so now we kind of divided that into two, and it's going to grow more. So right now, in the new release, you will see the per job email notification and then the email usage notification, two sections there. So it's pretty clear, I think, just by the name. So per job is basically meant for if you have the data that you're accumulating using MassMailer, such as the activities or email status records and so on and so forth. And if you want to delete them periodically, you can do that using the tool. And if you wanted to receive the notifications, then you should actually set that email address here so that you can receive these email notifications. And the email usage information is nothing but what I just talked about, the usage statistics. So you can actually just give an email address here. So for example, this is the email address that you want to send an email alert, and then maybe at 75% you want to get notified. You just enter the percentage and then just save it, and that will actually send you email usage notification whenever you reach 75%. So there, you can go multiples. And this is a comma separated list. So like if you needed to add multiple email addresses, you can do so just by entering the comma separated values. That's possible too. So this is the alert section, and then let's go to the next one. Okay, so the tracking settings, again, some of these things you don't have to really change. So such as the email event notification settings, you will see if you're the new release, there are only two things that we do. So older release, you may see two more, but again, those are not necessarily in the new release. So here you would see that there is a event notification site URL. You would never change this. This is done by the system. So as an admin, you don't have to do anything at all in this section, other than the statistics up to 30 months. So this, I think you may want to play with as and when. So let me explain what it means, right? So the event notifications are nothing but the opens or clicks or unsubscribes or pauses, delivered bounces. Those are called the email event notifications. As you know, we use SendGrid behind the scenes. SendGrid actually keeps sending these email events to MassMailer periodically, and then we capture those notifications and store them back into Salesforce, right? And this is the event notification URL where all those events are sent, and we have a listener that listens to these events that are coming from SendGrid as and when they come, meaning like it's all real time, almost real time. And then we store them back into email status objects. So that's what happens technically behind the scenes, right? And you also see the statistics, such as all the number of opens and clicks and everything on the outreach object, as you know. So the outreach object will get refreshed with certain statistics information every few minutes. It's not immediate, just because we run a batch job behind the scenes where we capture all the latest statistics coming from SendGrid. I think the process runs every 15 minutes or so, if I'm not wrong, which is actually going to change in the upcoming release. It may be, I think it's going to be every 1 hour, and also you have an option to set it up whatever you want it. Meaning, some customers may not need the statistics to refresh every day, so you can always set it up every day, kind of a thing. So there is a setting available that keeps the load low on the system. So you can always set it up in the back end. That's not in this release, just to let you know. It's in the future release. We already developed that feature. So basically, just to kind of summarize what it means, the statistics up to 30 months, it means that whenever you send email campaigns, let's say you have, say, 100 campaigns that you already executed, we keep getting the statistics information on all those 100 campaigns that you executed up to 30 months. That's what it means. So let's say you ran a campaign last month, and you never know. So somebody who clicked on that email that you sent last month today, you're still getting like statistics such as number of opens are increasing. So it's not like stopped. So we still look at the statistics for the old campaigns that you run. We always refresh the count. So that will go up to 30 months, which we felt it's actually way too a high number, meaning nobody would want to really track that was sent like 2.5 years ago, right? So we were in the upcoming release, this will be reduced to 3 months because we realized that it is actually having a lot of load on the system. So we're going to reduce the default value will be 3 months in the future release. So up to 3 months, we'll capture the actual statistics. We may even go to 1 month in the future release. I'm not sure. We're just testing the 3 months now and see how kind of what kind of performance impact that customers may have. But this is actually editable, meaning you can edit this, and this is you have option to go to 6 months, 12 months, 18, 24, 34 months. You can reduce it to 6 months if you want. But in the upcoming release, we also going to add 1 month and 3 months option too. That way you can just reduce it to bare minimum. That way, the batch job that runs behind the scenes does not really impact a lot in Salesforce environment because it keeps running frequently. So that's what it means. It's statistics information that you see there. Okay. So I'll just go save it. So it's very simple. All you need to do is just change the value and save it if at all you want to change it. The default is right now 30 months, but in the future release, it's going to be 3 months, the default value. But as an admin, you can always set it to the lowest level if you don't want to track it for a long time. So I recommend just go with the low value. Right now, the lowest value is 6 months, but in future, you can go up to just 1 month. Now, talking about the suppressed email event logging, as you all know that we capture the statistics, the status values. Currently, if you do not have anything that is getting suppressed, meaning you don't want to suppress anything, meaning you don't need to set up this, right? Anytime you decided, hey, I really do not want to know the processed event because, anyways, email getting processed and it may get dropped, or it may get delivered, it may get bounced, few things can happen. So, I don't want to really track processed. So you just have to select it. There's no save thing. So you just select and that's it. There's no save button as you can see in the section. So typically every section will have some sort of a button if at all you need to save something, yeah? Or maybe the whole page may have a save button. It all depends, what you're doing. So that is the function of the suppress email event logging. It just means that you're actually selecting that value so that this does not get logged in Salesforce to MassMailer. That's the suppress email event logging. And then turn off Salesforce activity logging by default. This is false. So basically, as you know, we log two things. One is the email status values and also the activity logging. If you want me to actually open kind of an example, I can do that. So let's just open one more tab here, and I'm going to search for a contact so that you kind of relate to what I'm saying. Okay. So let's say this is your contact object. As you can see from here, that we have the standard Salesforce activity that gets logged by MassMailer whenever you send an email. You will see MassMailer email as the prefix, so that means it's a task logged by MassMailer. And also you see the email status values. So this is what I was referring to in this particular page here. So if you wanted to suppress the email event logging for any specific event, you can select that. Otherwise, skip that. And then if you want to turn off the Salesforce activity logging, meaning you do not want to log this activity that you see here, the Salesforce activity that you see here, you can actually select this saying, hey, I want to turn it off. And you see that the second one automatically switched to false because these two kind of interrelated. Let's say I turn it on. Now you have an option to log activities using Salesforce email message. I think in the current release, I think this is default. This is set to true by default. Or one of the upcoming releases for sure. We're going to set this to default to true, provided you have enabled the enhanced email feature in Salesforce. So if you're not familiar with the enhanced email feature, let me just show you. So when you log, like this is an email, you can see the icon is like an email, meaning this is enhanced email, meaning it'll show the HTML layout here. When you open this particular activity, it is going to show you the pure HTML form, proper HTML form, because you enabled the enhanced email. And if you're not familiar with enhanced email, I'm happy to just quickly go to the screen. It may take some time to load up the screen, but I think it's important to kind of understand some customers may be on an older version. They have not enabled enhanced email, or maybe they have disabled it. It can happen. So it's good to enable enhanced email. I think the way the Salesforce used to log email in the previous versions before this enhanced email was not that great. So if you ever sent HTML, they just used to kind of store the HTML like a HTML code into the task, which was not user friendly. So you basically have the enhanced email. It's called enhanced email. Let's see. Yeah. So under email, there's something called enhanced email. Make sure that you turn this on. This is what I recommend strongly. That way, the HTML emails would look like a nice email template, okay, in the activity. So that's what it means. Okay? So basically, turn this on if you have not turned it on. So make sure that you turn on the enhanced email in Salesforce, and also turn this log activities using Salesforce email message to true. Okay. And then turn off default campaign member status update. This is actually pretty new. If you are using Salesforce campaign feature, then you have an option to turn off the member status value. We built this because some customers felt that they use that standard field for a different purpose, meaning they don't want MassMailer to switch that campaign member status value automatically because they have a process in place. So we came up with this feature where you can turn off the default campaign member status update, but again, we do store the MassMailer campaign member status in another custom field. So there, like you would see another custom field on the campaign member that we are actually tracking the status value, not just the default campaign member status. Again, if you are not familiar with this, you can always go to, again, this is in the latest version. Yeah. If you're an older version, you wouldn't see this. So let me go to campaign member object. And then go to the field. So you see this MassMailer campaign member status. This is actually a brand new field that we created, so which also gets updated whenever any new event happens on the campaign member, such as open, click, and everything. Again, so if you are on the latest version, you will see this. So that's kind of interrelated to this. So whenever you turn off, so the default campaign member status value does not get updated, but you will still have the custom campaign member status field that gets updated. So if you have any process, then this would be important for you to kind of play with. And then here you would see the email event tracking setting. So I mean, by default, you will have the click tracking and open tracking enabled. So Google Analytics is not enabled by default for anyone, but if you ever needed to track the links and the clicks and everything using Google Analytics, you can actually turn this on, which means that we actually populate the Google Analytics tracking code on the URL that you have, so that you can actually see who is clicking on your email. I mean, let's say you have a link and you turn on the Google Analytics and you already have Google Analytics that's enabled for your domain. You'll be able to track those links, and you will know that this is actually coming from so-and-so campaign. And if they clicked on something, they've submitted a form. If you have a Google Analytics expert, they'll be able to track and say, hey, this came from so-and-so campaign. That's possible to do it. So in the future releases, we plan to have, not that we need to have any integration with Google Analytics, it's already there, but perhaps I think I'm going to talk about this at length in detail, how you can actually enable Google Analytics and how to set up Google Analytics integration with Salesforce, which is actually a standard integration, I believe. Salesforce does offer that. And then how you can actually track the links, link clicks and the opens and everything that are basically driven by the email campaign that you're running, and how to capture this in Google Analytics and then sync up back with Salesforce. So that way you don't really need a super duper heavy duty, marketing automation solution to track your website links that are coming from email. You'll be able to do it with the regular Google Analytics and MassMailer and turn this on. A little bit of an integration work by your admin, you should be able to achieve that. So I think I will spend some time to kind of set this up in a demo environment and talk about this in one of the upcoming webinars on how to do the Google Analytics integration, which will be, I think, very useful. And then the subscription tracking, again, most of the customers, they use the subscription tracking. All it means is that you're going to have an unsubscribe link in the email, whether it is a global unsubscribe or a group unsubscribe, and you're gonna track the unsubscribes, and also you want to have some text that gets displayed whenever you're actually sending out email. So the unsubscribe, the text is going to be displayed something like this. If you have something else other than this, that's okay. You can also center this. Actually, it's a good way to show this. If you already have some HTML content here, make sure that you actually add this div. In the next release, we're going to do this default for you, but you can actually just follow this. It's very simple. As I'm typing, you just have this div tag, align it to center, and then at the end, just add this div closing tag. And then in between, you can have your current HTML that you already have. What it does, it actually aligns the unsubscribe link or the statement that you have in the email. That way, it's not in the left side. So that's the option that you have there. Okay. And the text body. So as you know, whenever you're sending out email, it is recommended that you have both the HTML as well as the text email body, so that you can improve your email deliverability. So we do have that option where we auto-populate the text body for every HTML email that you're actually sending, especially in the outreach wizard. Not many of you are familiar with that, maybe. So we do that. The formatting is not that great in the previous version. In the upcoming version, we kind of made it nice so that any extra spaces would be removed in the text body that gets copied automatically. So some enhancements that we have done. Even in the template builder, there is an HTML component right now, as you all know. But we added the text component as well in the template builder, which gets copied from the HTML. Like we strip off all the HTML code and then copy only the text one. So if you're not familiar with this, what is text and what is HTML, happy to kind of just show you that way you can actually relate to what I'm talking about. And I'm not really running a full-blown campaign here, since most of you are familiar with MassMailer, and you'll be able to capture what I'm talking about. So let's just go to target audience, and I'm kind of switching screens because it's very important to kind of understand it's an admin webinar. So even if it's a little technical, I'm sure you'll be able to kind of appreciate what I'm doing here. So when you actually load any template, assuming you already create the template either using MassMailer, or you may have the Salesforce template already. If you created something using Salesforce, we recommend that you have the text version within Salesforce itself. But if you created something using MassMailer Template Builder, you will see two tabs here, the HTML and the text tab. Yeah. So any HTML, any template that you created, provided it has some text elements in that, meaning you've written something, right? So when you go to, so I would save this, and then when you go to text, you will see the text component here. I know it may not be like super formatted as I told you, but you will see some text here. You have the text, and then you have some more text here. In the upcoming release, we have removed these extra space, like the line breaks and everything, so it doesn't look so bad. So it was a little tricky to do this, but you see this text component that automatically gets populated. And the experience is also kind of going to be good in the future releases, where this doesn't get refreshed every time. So if you made any changes, if you want to update it, you'll be able to do that as well. So this is the text component that we actually send out, and that's what it is referring to. Whenever you actually send a text email, meaning the recipient server. So this is important to understand that how the internet servers work. Yeah, every email server, the inbound server, will have capability to receive HTML, text, both, or it could be just one of them based on the server settings. Some email servers may receive only the text-based emails, especially the older ones. But some email servers will have capability to receive both HTML and text. But it's very rare to see some, the recent servers not allowing HTML. It's very, very, very rare, but you never know. There could be 1 in a million. I do not know the count, but so it's always a good practice to have both HTML and the text version whenever you're sending emails. That way you can improve the email deliverability. That's what it means. So if it's a text body, then this is what it's going to show for the unsubscribe link. Yeah. And then not many of you may be familiar with this custom landing page URL. So, and the HTML body. I've spoken about this in another webinar, what it means, but I can kind of explain to you, due to lack of time, I may not want to really do a full-blown demo. Whenever somebody clicks on the unsubscribe link, just listen to me what it's gonna do. When somebody clicks on the unsubscribe link, typically you would see the message that says unsubscribe, or unsubscribe successfully message by default, right? And if you want them to navigate to any specific landing page, right, then you can actually mention what is that landing page. I'm just going to give an example, right? Whenever somebody clicks on, you know, um, so something like this, right? So let's say you want to have a custom message on that particular landing page. You can build your own landing page with your own like logo, whatnot, whatever you want to display on that. It doesn't matter. You can build a custom page and then say that, hey, that's my custom landing page where I want to take the user when they click unsubscribe. So behind the scenes, they get unsubscribed, right? We log that event, but they'll be navigated to a custom page that you actually mentioned, right? That's this option. Yeah. Other option would be that you don't want to take them to a specific page, but you want to just create an HTML content and then you want us to render. So like you could do this, that way you don't really need to have a custom page, but you still have a custom HTML that you're going to display. For an example, you could have something like this. I'm going to have a very simple thing here. Sorry to see you go, something like that, right? So this is what that gets displayed if you have this unsubscribe landing page, HTML body. You can mention the HTML body there, and that's what I think it's a syntax is a little wrong, so it should be / and then save. So that's what you would display whenever somebody clicks on that unsubscribe link that you sent out. That's for the global unsubscribe, just to let you know. Okay. For group unsubscribe, there is no custom landing page. There's no like a custom HTML body that you can do. This is for global unsubscribe only. Okay. Maybe we will actually mention global unsubscribe here, so that way it is like you will understand that this is meant only for the global unsubscribe. Okay. And then here you see this new field or new option that we added: sync lead contact email opt-out fields in Salesforce. I've spoken about it in the previous webinar when I spoke about new features in MassMailer. So what it means, whenever somebody unsubscribes, if it's a global unsubscribe, then if you want to also sync the email opt-out field, whether it is for lead or contact in Salesforce, you can actually turn this on. That way we can check those boxes, check boxes in Salesforce. Okay? So there's a save button here. So you have to click on the save button whenever you make any changes in this particular section. So that's important to know. So everywhere you have a save button in a particular section, make sure that you click on that. Sometimes you may have it for the page, sometimes you may not have it for the page. Okay. And then here, unsubscribe groups. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. So if you ever needed to have unsubscribe groups defined, which is not a global unsubscribe, so you want the recipients to unsubscribe from a specific group, you can actually create this. You can add or delete. So we have an option to delete as well. So all you need to do is just click on that and it gets deleted. You can always add more just by clicking on this more and then just add the name and description and create. And then we don't have an update option, as you can see. That's because of a limitation in Salesforce, certain protocol that they do not support. But we do have a workaround for you to edit anything. Since you are provisioned with the SendGrid, you can go to SendGrid settings, unsubscribe groups, make some changes to the description or the name, and then come back to MassMailer and then click on the sync unsubscribe groups. Then we will basically sync those changes back into MassMailer. So that's what it means, the sync unsubscribe groups. So that's about it on the screen, and then we go to the next step here. This I'm sure many of you are familiar. So by default, we support certain objects. I think there are 5 of them: the lead, campaign number, case, user, contact. But if you ever wanted to enable more objects in Salesforce, where you have an email address on that field, on that object, you can just come here and then click on this plus and then select what is the specific email field that you actually, sorry, the object that you want to support, and what is the email field that you want to support, and click on save. So that means the new object gets enabled when you click on the save. But I recommend that you always click on finish whenever you're making changes, especially to this particular page, enable objects for MassMailer. Even though we do set up everything behind the scenes, but that's a recommendation that you always click on finish. You can make it as a practice, not that you have to click on finish for every single setting, especially when it's enabling something. Two times that I recommend that you click on finish is whenever you add any new object, or whenever you actually upgrade to a newer version. Always click on finish once the release. Whenever the version gets upgraded to the latest version, you always go back to finish and then click on the button, because sometimes we are doing certain configuration settings whenever you upgrade. That can only happen if you click on the finish button. So that's not recommended. It's a must to do option whenever you upgrade. So that's how you basically, all you need to do is click on the save button and then you can enable the new object. So that's an option here. I'm just going to delete this. Yeah? So next page is the sender settings. Again, I know many of you are familiar. So if you're in the latest version, we renamed this as common senders instead of global sender. It's the same thing though. So again, if you go to the outreach wizard, right? So this is your outreach. So let me just go here, and then I'm gonna go save this and go to the. Okay. And it's reloading. This additional step of reloading, I think we fixed it in the upcoming release, so that it doesn't really have to do anything. And go to the next step. So sender options is more related to what you see in the setup. So the common senders are nothing but the previously we called them as global sender. So here is where it is related. Yeah. So anything that you display, anything that you actually enter in this particular, close that. So let's say you enter a common sender here. Yeah. I'm just going to say support, and the support is this, and then copy paste that, right? An example, and you just save this. So this is a common sender that you're adding, and that's what is displayed here in the common senders. You don't see this immediately. You'll have to refresh this page to see the latest changes. In the upcoming release, I thought that maybe it would be handy to create the common sender right from here. That's something that's in the roadmap. We will for sure we're gonna add that option where you'll be able to create a common sender right from here. Don't have to go to the setup page. But we try to avoid, because you don't want the end users to add common senders. It is admin step. But I heard mixed feedback on that, so we're kind of still debating though. So you may see an update here. Especially the common senders, you may be able to create from here itself. But as an admin, remember to set the common senders here on this page. That way, all of your users actually will be able to see these common senders in the outreach. Okay, so that's related to that. And then the CC BCC list, again the same thing. So you have an option to create the CC BCC list right here. You can just go enter any email address, whatever it is, and then you just start to save, and that option will be shown on this screen again, outreach wizard, where you can actually see this CC drop down. Again, if you're in a latest version, you will see this. So the CC options are actually coming from the CC options here. And the same thing, the BCC option that you see here, like BCC email, and the drop down that you see here is also coming from this list. But as you know, we have an option to have enter email now. So if you're adding something, just as an example, let's see, where do okay. So for an example, if I add enter email, that's possible to do it, right? That's an option though, but typically you would want to have one of them, like that option is already set up in the MassMailer setup page. But you do have an option to enter email if it is not in the list that you want to. So that's kind of an additional feature that we added in the latest release. Same thing is also there for CC as well. You can just enter email right here. We don't let you create it here, again, the same reason that we didn't want the end users to go add CC and BCC on their own, because we felt that it's an admin step, because it's a common CC thing. If at all you want that to be enabled to all the users, it's more like an admin step. But the end users will have an option to enter that CC email on their own. That's possible to do it. Okay. And then the recipient email, as you know, the recipient CC email, if you have more than one email address on the same object, if you want to copy another email address, only then select this. So don't select the standard field. I know we have not logged it. That's something that we plan to do, meaning the target email address that you're sending should never be copied. That's actually going to be a mismatch, or it may be an error condition. So don't select the standard field or the default field that you're sending email to as a CC, but select the other fields. That's what we recommend. And then BCC, we just spoke about it. Sorry, the BCC settings here that we spoke about. Yeah. And then so the default BCC sender. So if you enable this, what it means that the BCC sender gets checked for you automatically in Outreach. And the same thing, default BCC email. If you selected a default BCC email, for example, this is your setting, yeah? Then just come back. So we'll go to the Outreach again, and you can see the change now because I've just changed it here. So I wanted to show, and then I want to say BCC on every email. So this is my setting. You can see the I have the default BCC sender, BCC default to a specific email address, and BCC on every email, right? There's no save. Yeah, there's no save button here. Okay, so let's just go to the next step. Target audience, contact, select the list view. Next step. I'm just going to type in something just for a quicker navigation. Next step. Next step. Okay. So as you can see, the BCC sender, BCC email got selected. Hello is selected. And I see a small bug so that I tested this. So BCC on every email is supposed to be selected because that's what I selected here. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this and I'm gonna get it fixed there. That sometimes happens in my demos. All right, so that's what it means. So basically, you can have the default settings enabled right there, and that's what you could see in the common and BCC list. Okay? And duplicate email settings again. So by default, it's enabled to suppress the duplicate emails. I don't think it's a default one. Actually, we do not enable it by default. But you can always enable this. When you enable this, that's what you will see here on the latest release. You will see in a separate section called duplicate email settings. where the suppress duplicate email settings is selected by default for you, whatever you selected in the setup page. So that's what you see, but you can always turn it off. If you do not want to do it, you can turn it off at runtime. That's possible to do it as well. Okay, and then go to the next step. So this is again, I'm sure eventually you will realize that MassMailer is taking the data storage, but don't worry, we have this tool already developed. You can periodically clean the data. There are three sets of records that we create, as you know: MassMailer email status, MassMailer outreaches, and MassMailer activity history. I mean, assuming that you do not want to keep the old information, you can always periodically delete. We have options that you can choose older than 30 days, 90 days, 180, 365, like up to 1 year. We may be able to go beyond that. So far, this is what we have come up with. Various options way in which you can actually periodically delete the MassMailer email status values. And also you have an option to delete the outreaches. Again, the same setup that you have, the older than up to 1 year. And then you also have the MassMailer activity history that can get deleted, that is older than 1 year, up to 1 year. You have other options as well. All you need to do is just select the scheduled to active to all of them, and then we periodically delete them. And if you think, hey, I don't want to delete my old data, what do I do? How do I save? There are some archival solutions available. We're not an archival solution. You can always look for, archival solution for Salesforce. You can always purchase any archival solution and then enable some of these MassMailer objects to get archived. That way you don't lose your data, but you still have a way to report on the old records. That's how you save your storage. Unfortunately, we're not an archival solution provider. There are other archival solution providers that you can use, and that way you still keep the old data. That's the only way we can help you. So that is the scheduled purge, and you can also do the manual purge. So the exact same thing. If you do not want to kind of schedule, you want to manually kind of come and delete, that's fine. You don't have to do a schedule purge. You can come here and delete the respective email status values. Again, you can select the specific status values, what you want to delete, and then let's say you don't want, for example, deferred, may not be required. Maybe this is not required. Maybe you don't want any other events that you say, hey, I don't want them, and I want to select a specific date range, from maybe 2019 onwards, and then to date, and then just delete. So that basically deletes all the email status values that are in the status between these two dates. And same thing with the outreaches. You just have to give the name, the date, from date, and to date, the created date, and then delete. And same with the activity history, from date and to date, and delete it. So that will basically delete the old data. Again, it doesn't archive, it just deletes it. But if you, as I said, if you want to actually archive your old data, just look up for any archival app for App Exchange, and you'll be able to find few options there, and you can always take an archival for the old data. That way you can release the data storage that you see. And finally, it is just the finish. Finish does not have any options there. Just click on the finish button and you're good to go. So that's pretty much what we have in the MassMailer settings and how it is related to the outreach. And again, if you want to kind of understand this, we do have the configuration guide. It does talk about the setup, though it doesn't give you enough details on every single option. It's always best to kind of refer back to this particular webinar if you have any questions in the future, or you can always send us an email to our support email or just hello@massmailer.io, or you can raise a support ticket. And again, we'll be talking about a few other admin-related topics such as page layouts and also other options that may not be available on the UI that may be available in the custom settings. Handful of them. So maybe I'll touch base on them in the upcoming topics. So once again, thank you so much for joining the webinar today. And here is my contact information if you want to get in touch with me. I'm always available. And you can always look up for the upcoming webinar at this link, massmailer.io/join-webinar. It runs every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So feel free to join the webinar. Every week you will receive an email. As you know, if you are in our email list, you will receive an email every week on the upcoming webinar and also the previous webinar, the recording. Once again, thank you so much for joining the webinar today. Enjoy your day. Have a great evening, or have a great day, or have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.